The fat tourist smirks, pulls out a cigarette, and with a cocky grin, flicks it straight at the guard's chest. The crowd freezes, cameras capture the moment. He's certain there will be no consequences. But within seconds, the guard will lunge forward, and that's when the tourist will realize he's made a huge mistake. But let's start from the very beginning. London, early morning. Buckingham Palace gleams under the soft morning sunlight, its reflection shimmering on the immaculately cleaned cobblestones in front of the gates. Hundreds of tourists crowd around the iron fence, armed with smartphones and cameras, eager to capture every moment. They snap photos of the grand palace walls, the majestic golden gates, and, of course, the main attraction, the Queen's Guards in their traditional red uniforms. But amid the crowd, one figure stands out so much that it's impossible to ignore. A very large man. He's squeezed into a blue jacket that barely contains his massive frame, the zipper stretched to its limit, seemingly ready to burst. Underneath, a dingy gray t-shirt clings tightly to his enormous gut, which spills over his belt. His black sweatpants are stretched across his thick thighs, and his oversized sneakers, with tangled and dirty laces, leave deep imprints on the cobblestones. His face is red and shiny with sweat, and a few damp strands of hair stick to his forehead. Chubby fingers clutch a plastic cup of beer, which he lazily swirls in his grip, leaving sticky fingerprints on the surface. In his other hand, a nearly finished cigarette smolders, the tip crackling as it releases thick, foul-smelling smoke. He stands slightly apart from the crowd, deliberately taking up more space than necessary. The other tourists glance at him with visible discomfort, but whether he doesn't notice or simply doesn't care remains unclear. This man is the stereotypical American tourist, too loud, too self-assured, too convinced of his own immunity to consequences. He has no regard for foreign traditions, treating everything around him as an amusement park designed for his entertainment. His plump cheeks twitch in a smirk as he lazily scans the faces around him, as if searching for a target. He isn't just an observer. He's looking for trouble. Then, his greasy fingers freeze midair. His beady eyes focus with interest on one man, a Queen's Guard. Tall, disciplined, and statuesque, the soldier stands in front of the gates, his rifle with bayonet held in perfect position. His red tunic fits flawlessly, emphasizing his rigid posture and training. The iconic bearskin hat obscures his hair, leaving only his face, stone-like, emotionless, completely still. His gaze is fixed straight ahead, unblinking, unmoving, like a granite statue. And that's exactly what irritates the tourist. His bloated face twists into a sneer. He leans forward slightly, taking one last deep drag, filling his lungs with acrid smoke. "Let's see just how unshakable you really are," he mutters, his voice deliberately loud enough for those around him to hear. With a lazy flick of his wrist, he tosses the cigarette directly at the guard's chest. The smoldering butt bounces off the uniform, leaving a faint ash mark on the pristine fabric before falling to the ground. For a moment, the crowd collectively holds its breath. Someone gasps. Others lift their phones higher, recording the scene. A few tourists exchange stunned glances. No one can believe what they just witnessed. But all eyes are locked on the guard. At first, nothing happens. He stands there, as still as before. Time itself seems to pause. And then, in a single, lightning-fast motion, his body comes to life. The guard reacts, a sharp, precise movement, honed by years of training and discipline, tears through the space between him and the tourist. His heavy boot stomps against the cobblestones with authority, his shoulders tensing, and his rifle remains perfectly still in his grasp. The Queen's Guard has awakened. "Stand back!" The voice booms, echoing like a thunderclap. Firm, commanding, unmistakably military. The crowd gasps. not just in surprise, but in collective shock. Nobody has ever seen a guard react like this. The tourist flinches. For a brief second, genuine confusion flickers across his sweaty face. He clearly wasn't expecting the statue he mocked to suddenly come alive. But this man isn't used to backing down. The crowd turns against him. A murmur spreads through the onlookers, but now their tone has shifted. The initial surprise quickly morphs into anger and disgust. People start whispering, their voices laced with irritation. "What an idiot! So disrespectful. I hope they arrest him." Somewhere in the crowd, a frustrated groan is heard. A woman beside him hisses through clenched teeth. "Does he even realize where he is?" But the American tourist hears none of it, or chooses not to. He snorts mockingly, glancing at the crowd, then smirks. "Oh, so you're not just a doll? Come on, let's see what you've got." His voice is loud, taunting, deliberately provocative. The crowd freezes. That sentence changes everything. Until now, people might have thought he was just a drunken fool. But now, it's clear. He's doing this on purpose. He's mocking the guard. He enjoys the attention. What a jerk. This guy's lost his mind. I hope the guard knocks him flat. Tension peaks. A crude provocation. The tourist senses the shift in energy, but it only excites him further. He's no longer just some idiot causing a scene. He's the center of attention, the star of the show. And the more people watch, the more he wants to escalate. He throws his arms wide, shaking his head dramatically as if laughing at the absurdity of the situation. "Oh, what? Are you all his security team now? I don't see any royal lawyers," he jeers, glancing at the outraged crowd. Sweat drips down his face, but now it's not just from the heat. He's energized. He feels powerful, like he's the main attraction of a reality TV show. His greasy fingers clench into fists, then relax, as if he's debating whether to push things further. He takes a step closer to the guard. The final straw. The crowd tenses, sensing imminent disaster. Someone exhales softly. "Don't do it." But the tourist isn't listening. He extends his thick arm forward, deliberately slow, tauntingly, his index finger aimed directly at the guard's shoulder. No fear, just an arrogant smirk. And that's when everything changes. The guard steps forward. The movement is so fast, so sudden, that the very air seems to tighten with tension. A heavy boot slams against the stone pavement with a deafening thud. At the same instant, the rifle snaps upward. The sharp clash of metal. The bayonet points straight ahead. The crowd erupts in screams. The tourist doesn't even have time to process what just happened. A harsh reality check. His face twists in fear. Just seconds ago, he was so sure of himself, convinced that these guards were nothing more than silent decorations, props to be toyed with. But now, standing before him, is a soldier, trained, disciplined, and ready to defend his post. And in that instant, his cocky arrogance evaporates. Panic grips his body. He stumbles backward. His breathing turns shallow and ragged. He tries to take another step back, but the fall panic overtakes him too fast. His clumsy step lands wrong. His massive foot catches on the curb. He loses control of his own weight. Momentum does the rest. His arms flail wildly, trying to grab hold of anything, but there's nothing but empty air. "Oh, shh! No! No! No!" Gravity doesn't care. The crowd watches in shock as his giant body tilts, then collapses. A deafening thud. Everything happens in seconds. His plastic beer cup flies from his grip. Golden liquid splashes through the air, drenching his own jacket and pants. His body slams onto the stone pavement with a disgusting squelch. The impact echoes across the square. The crowd loses it. And then, chaos. He took himself out! Oh my God, he just collapsed! Did you get that on camera? Best day ever! Some people are crying with laughter. Others are clapping like they're at a live performance. The tourist whimpers, trying to process what just happened. He lies there, soaked in his own beer, blinking stupidly at the sky. His chest heaves, struggling for breath. But all that comes out is a pitiful wheeze. The guard, unshaken. But the worst part? The guard doesn't even move. He doesn't react. He simply resumes his stance, as if nothing happened. He doesn't even look at the fallen man. And that is the ultimate humiliation. The tourist wasn't even worth a glance. The crowd erupts. The square explodes with applause, cheers, laughter, whistles. People simply can't believe what they just witnessed. Some are jumping with excitement, others are shouting to their friends, and dozens of phones are locked on the scene, capturing what will surely become a legendary moment. Yet, amidst all this chaos, the Queen's guard stands still, like nothing happened. The only sign of any reaction is the faintest tension in his jaw. His eyes, cold as ice, remain fixed ahead. No emotion, no satisfaction, no victory. He simply returns to his duty, as if he hadn't just sent an arrogant loudmouth crashing onto the pavement with a single movement. But the tourist? His confidence is completely gone. Humiliation, cold and sticky. He's sprawled out on the cold stone pavement, his massive chest heaving as he struggles to catch his breath. A sticky puddle of beer spreads beneath him, soaking his now pathetic blue jacket, which clings to his bloated frame. And then, the worst part. A giant, dark stain spreads across his pants. And in front of hundreds of people, it looks exactly like what everyone is thinking. Did he just... The snickering turns into full-blown hysterical laughter. His thick fingers tremble, desperately clutching at the slick cobblestone as he tries to push himself up, but his soaked clothes cling to his body, restricting his movements, and splat! He flops back down, making a loud, wet squelch. No more arrogance. "Oh, come on," he mutters, his voice shaky, barely above a whisper. There's no more mockery, no more bravado. He doesn't smirk, he doesn't taunt. He looks like a cornered animal, scared and completely defeated. The crowd shows no mercy, and the crowd does not forgive. If, at first, people were just shocked, now they are angry, disgusted. "That's what you get, you fat idiot!" Respect to the guard. Show these clowns they can't mess around. Embarrassing, just pure embarrassment. The tourist hears it all. His face burns red, blotchy with humiliation. He doesn't know where to look. His hands twitch as if he's trying to hide from the entire situation. But there's nowhere to hide. His chest rises and falls in short, panicked breaths. His eyes, which once held arrogance, are now wide and lost. And then, the final blow. The moment of truth. The crowd parts. From the backdrop of Buckingham Palace, 2 police officers emerge. Their black helmets and dark uniforms stand out in the sea of people. They don't rush. They don't shout. They simply walk, with purpose, straight toward the pathetic heap of a man still sprawled on the pavement. He already knows what's coming. One officer kneels down, eyes scanning the soaked jacket, the spilled beer, the overturned plastic cup. He shares a glance with his partner, and then the cold official verdict. "You're under arrest for disorderly conduct." The crowd goes wild. The square erupts. "Yes, get him! Justice is served! Someone frame his mugshot. This is history! But the tourist doesn't resist. His face is drained of color, his eyes darting in panic. He doesn't say a word as the officers grab his arms, lifting him off the ground. His entire body trembles, still shaken from the reality check of his life. This moment, this exact moment, will haunt him forever. Because the cameras are still rolling, and the internet never forgets. The video goes viral. The footage explodes across the internet, flooding YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and every other platform imaginable. Algorithms eat it up, instantly pushing the clip to millions. The moment when a massive, arrogant tourist topples over, landing in a pool of his own spilled beer, while the unshaken Queen's Guard towers over him like a monument to justice, spreads like wildfire. Millions of views in just the first few hours. Headlines take over the internet. Obnoxious American tourist throws a cigarette at a Queen's Guard. What happens next is pure legend. He thought the guards couldn't move. He was dead wrong. Legendary moment. British Guard silences an entitled tourist in seconds. Comment sections go crazy. I could watch this on loop forever. This is how you deal with disrespectful tourists. The way he just collapses. Pure cinematic perfection. But the most incredible part of the video? It's not the humiliated tourist, not his shocked, panicked face, not the beer-drenched mess he became, not even the moment when British police cuffed him and hauled him away. The true star of the video? The guard. A return to duty. After everything. After the tourist was utterly humiliated in front of hundreds of people. After his bloated body made that unforgettable squelching impact on the cobblestone. After he stood there, soaked and defeated, looking like a broken version of his former arrogance. The guard simply steps back. Not a single extra movement, not a single emotion on his face. He returns to his precise, immovable stance, like nothing ever happened. The crowd continues to roar, cheer, and laugh, but he doesn't hear them anymore. The tourist. He isn't worth noticing. He wasn't even worth a glance. And that is what makes the video so powerful, so perfect, so truly legendary. This man thought he was important. He thought he was the center of attention. He thought he controlled the moment, that the guard was just a lifeless mannequin for his amusement. But in the end, everything was set right. The guard stands once more, unshaken, unmoved, legendary.